Let's burn.
So, Alan, you blow a lot of shit up.
Yeah, kinda. We always have to watch out how we say about that because if Big Brother is listening, blowing stuff up, put him on the list. Oh wait, he's already on the list. He's right here. But no, I do a lot of pyrotechnic work. I'm also a black powder expert, so I do cannons and muskets and things like that. And usually, if you're at a festival and there's a boom, I'm 90% of the time the guy behind it to make sure that not only does it go boom, but it doesn't hurt anybody or set anything on fire.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen you set off mini booms several times at mainly the Texas Renaissance Festival.
Well, everybody likes a good bang in the morning.
And you're in charge of the whole fire show there. And
the fireworks.
The fireworks. I'm sorry.
Fire show is Solar Rain.
That's right.
Because they kick much ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to be a part of that.
Yes, I know.
That's how we met out there. And
yeah.
You start the fireworks off every night with a giant cannon.
Yeah. What I do is when fireworks first came to Europe, they were this new and wild thing, and they didn't have the fireworks as we understand them today. Most of it was ground-based, but they did have some stuff go up in the air and burst. But the person that set them off was dressed as the Green Man, because the Green Man was the wild man, and who better to do the wild thing than the wild man? So they dressed like Green Men. And so what we do is we portray ourselves as the Royal Company of Green Men. And I'm a green man. The other assistant out there with me in the arena that the audience can see is dressed like a green man. And we run around and set these things down. And it's low-level stuff because I like my show to build. Mm-hmm. I want you to see something, small but cool. And like, oh, wow, that's cool. And then the next section, you're like, wow, that was bigger. That was cool. The next section, you're like, wow, that was bigger. That's got to be the finale. Oh, wait, it's not the finale. Holy crap, there's another finale. It's a little bit bigger than that one. Wow, this is cool. It's like, oh, that was the coolest show ever. Wait. There's another finale. It's 2 times as big as the ones in front. Oh my gosh. And they really feel like they got more for their money. Because when I was a kid, when I would watch fireworks displays, everyone has experienced this. It's like boom, boom, boom. Everybody waits for the finale. The finale. Finale happens. Boom, everybody's like, wow! And then when it's over, everybody goes, oh, because it's over. So I was like, my audience wants more. Everybody wants more. So I kind of stage it that way to where you're not really sure if it's actually ended. Mm-hmm. And you get more than one finale, which everybody has dreamed about since they were a child.
Mm-hmm. And you, I know that moment when you fire those strobe lights across the lake, those mm-hmm. big flashes, and that seems to go on just almost too long, and you're mm-hmm. wondering, is there more behind it?
Yeah.
And then that is like...
So it's building, and it's creating this need or urgency to the audience that they were like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? I don't know what to expect.
And those lights are those lights? Are they like magnesium flares?
They are in the business it's called a strobe.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're made out of magnesium, sometimes they're made out of other things. But the thing is just a pulsing light. Those things, surprisingly, are very cheap. Mm-hmm. And some will burn for like maybe 10 seconds. Some will burn for like 30 seconds. And we used those this last season. But I really like them because they're cheap effects, but they produce a brilliant, huge flash, which is attractive to the eye, lights up everything around it, and it's something you don't see. Mm-hmm. And I use it to remind people, hey, something else may be coming, And we don't do one at the end. We do it in between the ones that we do. So they know at the end, they're kind of sure that there's nothing else after because the strobes didn't go off again.
And so if you were ever getting to see the Texas Renaissance Fireworks Show, they've already shot off dozens and dozens of fireworks and explosions and artillery in the air, and there's smoke everywhere and there's lights shooting, and then you have these flares coming off the side, or these as you described, strobes coming off, and so they are like little magnesium charges.
They can be made out of different stuff. Sometimes magnesium.
But they just produce this super bright white flash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you have to wear any eye protection or anything?
No, I actually, on the side, like when I do it up in the arena, there's a band playing. So I don't want to blind the band, especially when they're up on a stage. You step off the edge of the stage. That would be real fun. Fall on a bagpipe. So I have a shield on the rack that holds it that goes, if it's facing a performer, they can't see. It blocks that flash from them. And I'd have the same for my crew in the back where they fire them across the lake. And a little interesting fact about the fireworks display, how big it is and how much stuff goes off. It's all a hand-fired show. None of it is fired electrically, with the exception of one effect in the arena. And it's only shot by 3 people.
Oh, wow.
Period.
And in the
back.
And how many effects do you have set up in the back?
I think it would be rated at 1 metric ass load. I think that's the correct maybe metric term. They use that in Europe, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, we have a lot. Because we have sponsors. It's Top Dog Fireworks, and they provide the fireworks. And they basically, I asked TRF when they first made the deal with them, because they didn't exactly include me in on the negotiations. So I had no idea if there was a ceiling. What's my budget? What am I, what are they donating? TRF's like, oh, no, do whatever you want, which was, liberating and scary to me, because it's like, wait, I'm given free license. I may go over the top anyway. But I reined it in a little bit, but still did more than I would do. Just because of monetary reasons and things like that. You have a budget to work in. You got to get the most out of the budget and stuff like that. I still keep those practices in mind, but I have more creative freedom to write what I want to write. The way I describe it to people sometimes is I paint the sky with fire. And I have to... My son has seen me do this at home. I'll sit in front of a video screen looking at different fireworks companies' videos of their different, a multi-barreled effect that fires several things in the industry, and it is known as a cake. So I'm looking at the cakes and seeing what they do, seeing if they're fans, seeing if all this other stuff. I will sit there and literally watch them until my brain liquefies and runs out of my ear. And I'm just sitting there writing notes until, it's hard to imagine it until you're absolutely sick of fireworks. But I see what, how far they spread out. And I think to myself, okay, that would be good by itself, or that would be good with 3 like it or 4 like it, and backed up by these fireworks in the center, backed up by this on the side, backed up with this over it. And, I do a lot of stuff according to height, according to color, according to presentation, according to rapidity of the firing, if it's slow or if it's fast. Sometimes I want slow things in the middle. Sometimes I want fast things to accent them and just attract the eye. But I like painting pictures with fireworks.
So these cakes, is that the unit that launches the fireworks, like the artillery shares in the air? Or is it the entire unit going
all the
into
stuff
the air?
that I do at Texas Renaissance Festival is consumer grade. It's 1.4 G, which is also not 1.3 G, which is professional grade. That's done, like if you see huge shows at a city like Houston or Dallas or Austin or San Antonio or whatever, the really huge shows, that's a different type. It goes up higher, and it also costs a lot more. And so to save money on that, and also Texas Renaissance Festival, like most amusement parks, even though it seems big, it's actually a tight sort of area. If anybody's listening to this that is from Houston, when they took away Astroworld, you had gone there since you were a kid and on into adulthood, and it was just this huge place. And then when they took everything out, it was just a small field. And you're like, how the hell could all of that stuff fit in that space? But it did. It was all just the layout. So it's actually a tight venue. So I did the Class C stuff to where it would be closer to the audience. It's just as beautiful as the big stuff. Some of the stuff even more so. You can do more with it. It's more controlled. You have a more tight fallout area. And it makes the show more personal, a little more closer to the audience, and it's a wow spectacle, and everybody loves it. And I think I'm doing okay, as far as professional pyrotechnicians go and stuff like that. But other people are like, no, man, I've never seen a show like yours at all. I've seen the ones at Disney. I've seen the ones at Washington, D.C. on the 4th of July, and yours blows it out of the water. And I'm like, how the hell can I blow anything out of the water when those people have the budget they do? But apparently I've seen just little snips and bits of footage of the ones that they were referring to, and I've never seen the whole thing, so I can't tell myself. But the general vibe that I've been getting from everyone, and also the comments, are just like, damn, yours is the best. And I'm like, well, I don't know how I did that, but I guess I did something right. So here, take my phone and call my ex-wife, and please tell her I did something right. So thank you.
Well, I mean, you definitely do incorporate a lot more, like I would say, theatrics. There's a lot more involvement of the fireworks.
Yeah, there's a show.
Instead of just them exploding in the air behind you.
You said I start the show off with a cannon. I kind of dropped out of that when I got into the history aspect of it.
And so
basically, when I do the stuff in the arena, I do that, and you're like, wow, and then I come out right after the second it ends. I've got a stick with this custom-made gerb on the end of it. A gerb is a spark fountain that's pre-made, and it emits a green ball of light at the base of it, and it shoots up about 10, 15 feet, and it's either silver or gold, and I'm swinging that around. Everybody's like, wow, and then I do my arms to say, hey, come on, give me some applause, and they do, and I'll go over and touch the ground where my assistant out there has poured fuel in a circle around the cannon, and it will light, and it will go over to the cannon and go take a ring around the cannon and illuminate the cannon. Then I'll get them to yell again. Then I'll jump into that ring, and the cannon's pointed over the water to the back, and we've got a charge over there ready to go as an answer, like whatever it hit. So I'll go there and whip up the crowd again. I'll touch that cannon off. It'll shoot. And the echo from the cannon, the way you time the response boom, the echo from the cannon sounds like a shell in flight, like an artillery projectile in flight. So you hear boom, woo, bam, and then the fireworks start on the other side of the water, like I shot a cannon and set it off with the cannon. And that people love that stuff. And like I was telling you earlier, the funniest thing about that is it's a full-size artillery piece. So my cannon's name is Big Liz. Most cannons were named after famous prostitutes in the area in history, like Mons Meg in Scotland. One of the biggest cannons on earth was named after a famous prostitute named Meg, who I guess had a big Mons. And she was quite famous for it, apparently, because it's lived through history. So, hey, advertising pays, I guess. Wherever she is now, I'm sure she's doing good business. But, when we set up this stuff in the arena, there's still a little light. And most of the crowd gets there early because they want to have a seat. Because the entire Joust Stadium fills up with people. Several thousand people.
And so he's talking about the jousting arena, which holds almost 10,000 people all the way around and on 3 different sides of this giant arena where they have all the horses and the jousters riding back and forth. So it's almost the size of I'd say a soccer field.
It might be a little bit bigger because they've got to run, do horses at a run, and have the ability to slow them down and make turns and come around, and they got to turn from both sides, so that affects the diameter of it and stuff like that. I've seen jousters that will not perform in a field because it's not big enough. It's like, no, this joust list you've set up for is too small. We can't go on. We just can't, because it would be the equivalent of driving a semi truck somewhere. And so I can't make this turn.
And so, the closing of the park each night, they when they start the fire show and they start the fireworks show, before it even gets dark, people start gathering
Yeah,
inside the arena for
they
it.
can. They want to make sure they get a seat because the whole stadium fills up really quick. They want to make sure they get a seat, and so during this time, we're setting up the ground effects in the arena that's close to the audience, and me and my other assistant, we pull the cannon out on the field, and that's a full size artillery piece. It weighs 12,000. Oh wait, 1,200 pounds, I believe. But it's full-size artillery piece. It's a 6-pounder beer mug breech cannon, which is a particular type of cannon from. This one is a copy of one from 1495. But we pull it out on the field. We aim it where we're going to aim it. We put the equipment around it we need to use to fire it. We put a line of flour around it, a circle, to where my assistant in the dark, with very little light, can come up and see where that flour is and know where to pour the white fuel to go around it for the flame effect we do. And so we do all of that in daylight, and most of the people are there, and they see us do it. They see it, a full-size cannon. And then, when it gets dark, for some reason, and I can only suspect severe alcohol usage, they forget that the full-size cannon is there. It's about as big as a car. So they forget something the size of a car, and then when it's time, for me to light the circle that goes around it of fuel, and suddenly it illuminates, they're like, wow, where did that come from? That appeared magically, because they had forgotten a full-size cannon. I don't know how that happens, but apparently it does.
Yeah, I mean, it just
it mystifies me because I didn't think you could do sleight of hand with full-size artillery, but apparently I'm wrong.
that entire arena is completely dark, and I think like an hour goes by, and people just completely forget or think it's just a prop or some decoration.
I could understand if half the audience was there and the other half got there, but no, most of the audience is there.
I mean, and I performed myself in that arena with that cannon loaded, and I can say that thing does go invisible because I probably at least 5 or 6 times I almost slammed directly into that thing while I was dancing around.
We put tea lights on those things.
Oh, you put tea lights on it now. That would definitely help a lot.
You can actually see it. Yeah.
No, when I did it, it was just this dark beast that I would just almost run into with my big dragon staff.
Yeah, it's quite a thing that you would not want to run into because there's nothing on it soft anywhere.
I remember you being very clear that there's no rounds inside of it, but when this thing goes off, you do not want to be on the business end.
It can literally kill you. It can blow you in half. If you're standing in front of it when it goes off. If you're close to it, it can destroy your hearing permanently. It can also hurt you by the flame and just the gas that's created from the explosion. And even though there's no projectile in it, it's still a cannon, and it will still blow a hole in stuff. The owners of this festival, this Sherwood Forest Fair, the Monday after the entire fair is over, I have an event. Just to blow off steam, and it's called Shoot Interesting Shit Out of the Cannon Day. And I bring the cannon out front to the parking lot area, and we go to the local Walmart with a ball gauge, which gives you the inner diameter of the board, where you can find out if something can fit in it or not. And we'll go through the entire Walmart. We'll go to the garden center, the toy section, the sports section, everything, even the grocery section. And we'll find stuff that we either want to shoot with the cannon or shoot out of the cannon. So we'll shoot items with other items from the store. We've shot, like I got an Edward presentation doll from the Twilight series that was boxed. It was like a $40 something doll, and shot it point blank range with a French rolling pin. That because they don't have the handles, they're just like an oblong sort of piece of wood. And we wrapped it in cloth and shot his ass with that. And but it's very funny because
I guess that's how you can kill a vampire, right?
Yeah, it'll be like an Easter egg hunt after it fires, because as soon as it fires, everyone's cleared to go out there, and they want to get their piece of charred whatever the hell it was that we blew apart to keep as a souvenir. So it's a real fun event, and that was what I tell people is like, why do you do that event? Well, I own a cannon. why would it be worth owning a cannon if you did not get to do shit like that? So, and they're like, you got a point there. You got a point. But one year they had 2 broken ATMs, and they were like, hey, Alan, can you shoot one of our ATMs? Because they were broken. They couldn't be used for anything else. So they brought one out there, and they informed me of this the night before. And so I had to run around and find cannon ammunition, actual, lead pellets to shoot out of it as canister. And I found out that a Wolf brand chili can fits the bore very well. So I cleaned one of those out, put the lead balls in it up to the top, folded, snipped it, folded the end over, and made a canister shell. And we punched a fist-size hole through the armored part of the ATM. There's a YouTube video, I think it's called Cannon ATM, that you can still see it today. It's about a 5-minute long video, which most of it is me lighting a fuse and walking away. So scroll it ahead a little bit to see it, but you'll see the cannon, blow the ATM down, and then you'll see the close-up of the hole, which is fist size, completely through the armored section of it. So yeah, cannons are cannons. They're there to destroy. And it also strikes me funny because I do the opening cannon, which is outside the front gate, and people don't think it's real. They don't think, or they don't acknowledge it as a cannon. It's the most weirdest thing, and they'll try and walk in front of it and stuff like that, and they're like, no, this is dangerous. This is like a loaded gun. Would you walk in front of a loaded gun? No. This is 10 times the loaded gun. Just scale it up. Boom, boom, boom. You don't want to be in front of this. And then when we fire it, they're so surprised. Oh my gosh, that cannon was a cannon. That cannon made a loud noise like a cannon does. How did that happen? Like,
it's the kind that fires and not just decoration.
Yeah.
Your kids ride.
Yeah. Did you go to the cannon ride today? Yeah, it was great. Oh, man.
Do you have a problem now with people trying to take pictures, sticking their heads in it and stuff?
No, they don't stick their head in front of it because we have a team of safety that watches it like a hawk. We make sure that people don't walk in front of it. When it's loaded, we make sure that when we're pulling it from one place to another, because you can't stop one of those things on a dime. It's 1,200 pounds. When it's going with full momentum, you can't stop it. It's like an 18-wheeler. You got to, So if somebody's kid runs in front of it, if some drunk gets in front of it and refuses to move, we get them out of the way. And the cast helps us. The ground crew's safety team helps us. And we make sure that that cannon doesn't roll over anybody because it will destroy you. It's got, metal rimmed wheels and it weighs 1,200 pounds. It's like, you do not want an extreme makeout session with this cannon. No. Even Red Bull wouldn't sponsor that.
Where did you get this cannon?
My father.
I know why you got one.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
My father and I built it.
Oh, you built it?
Yeah, we over-engineered it. Most times a cannon is a tube with one end closed. A beer mug breech is a tube with both ends open. And you have a chamber that fits into the back of that cannon, and you keep it in place with a wooden wedge. And it has it's reduced in bore to where it goes up inside the end of the open end of the cannon. That's the side you fire it from. And the idea of that is back in the day, like in the mid 1300s and stuff, when cannons first started hitting the battlefield and going up from there, your black powder, if you transported it mixed, the materials or the ingredients of it would come unmixed during transport due to the vibrations. So you'd have to mix it on the battlefield. So if you mix it on the battlefield, you got these huge clouds of explosive, right? The way they set stuff off was either hot coals or something called match cord. Match cord was an all-natural cord that was soaked in saltpeter and left to dry so it burned slowly and had a coal or an ember. So you have lit fires all around, and you're creating huge explosive clouds by mixing it.
Oh, wow.
So that's like bad news. So what they would do is before a battle, they would take several of these chambers for the cannon, several of them, and they would preload them in a different location. They'd mix up the powder, load it. They would wad them up as far as they could, and then knock a soft wood plug into it and cut it off with a knife to be flush. That way, when they put it in and drove the wedge behind it, they could load the payload from the front, or whatever they were shooting at the enemy would still be loaded from the front, but they wouldn't have to ram the powder down, which is also a good safety thing. But they had a ability of rapid firing with those. Even in the medieval times. The reason that they gave it up is because the gap where the chamber connected the barrel would escape a little gas, and when it was sealed, they found your shot would go further and have more power. And when they were in the 1700s and stuff, battering down the walls of fortified cities that were there from medieval times, they wanted more power. They wanted more distance, and they wanted, to from a safe distance be able to knock the walls down. And most European cities are not walled anymore because of that reason. They didn't want something left that somebody could use to rebel against them, so they would just blow them all down. One of the last walled medieval cities in Europe is Rothenburg, Germany, Rothenburg on the Tauber. And legend has it, and it may be an urban legend, but the legend has it. So when the army showed up to batter their walls down, they challenged the officers to a drinking contest and won. And that's why it still remains as one of the only walled cities in Europe.
Oh, wow.
Rothenburg, Germany.
Wow, that's a lot about cannons. I think I read somewhere that cannons are measured by like their pounds.
Well, it's a pound of what they shoot. Like
what they shoot.
The projectile that mine shoots, it weighs 6 pounds.
Okay, so you have a 6-pounder.
A 6-pounder.
Okay, wow. And a 6-pounder, that would have been big enough to be on actual ships. And
they had one
they had
smaller
6
than
and 8s
that.
and
They had one smaller
4-pounders
than that on there. They had anti-personnel ones. There was a thing in the 16th century called a square murderer, and it was designed to be held by a man. It was attached to a stick like a medieval hand cannon, but it had a hook on it that you could hook over the rail to take up the kick. And it had a rectangular mouth, and it was a funnel-like shape.
Oh.
So they would put the powder
almost like
in
a blunderbuss in a way.
Yeah, but worse.
Worse, okay.
Because the shot that they shot out of it was square. It was called hail shot. And when it came out, it would go out in a wide swath, much wider than a blunderbuss could do. And it was much larger chunks, and it would just sweep the deck. And if you had 4 or 5 guys with them that hook it over at the same time and fire, you could clear the deck. It was horrible. That's why they were called square murderers.
Wow.
Yeah. So they had anti-personnel ones. They had, full-size ones. They had ones for shorter range. They had ones for longer range. They had just a vast array of all types of things. Anything that you could disassemble a human with, they were very keen about, because war was big industry, and, whoever won not only won but wrote history. Ta-da! We are the cleanest smelling country in the world. Yes.
You mentioned earlier you were a black powder expert.
Well, I grew up around it. My dad functioned with black powder. My dad was actually an EOD in the Army, Explosive Ordnance Disposal. They're the guys that call in to blow up bridges and things like that. And so he ingrained in me respect for explosives. People who buy fireworks, they think they're toys. But they end up blowing their fingers off with them, or losing an eye, or setting something on fire, or dying in some cases, because they don't think it's still explosives. One thing that people forget about fireworks is the reason it goes up so high in the sky to blow up is because it's explosives and will cause damage if it's on the ground. Yeah. We do it up there to where it doesn't destroy anything or anybody. So, but we also did American Civil War reenacting for many years, and when they found out he was an explosive ordnance disposal guy, they were like, "Oh, can you do cannon hits? To simulate cannon hits?" And so I was assisting him when I was a child, doing cannon hits for reenactments and stuff like that, bringing another level of realism to it, and also I was versed in black powder weapons at that time. Growing up around them, you learn a lot about it. And from there, I just kept going into my professional life. And, because it wasn't just my dad, it was a whole community. There are black powder shooters, rendezvousers, reenactors from all different types of time periods. When I found out there were 17th century reenactors, I went and became a 17th century reenactor. And then I saw the 16th century reenactors, like, and then I saw the medieval reenactors, like, oh, this is great. I'm going backwards in time, but it's awesome. And the funny thing about black powder weapons is if you can have, let's say, 2 accidents with a modern gun, you can have 5 accidents with a percussion black powder gun. If you can have 5 accidents with a percussion gun, you can have 10 accidents with a flintlock. If you can have 10 accidents with a flintlock, you can have 20 accidents with a matchlock. The more it goes back in history, the more danger it is for the things that could possibly go
You're rolling
wrong.
back the advancements of safety and
Yeah.
that have been found in blood almost.
Pretty much, but it teaches you to be very wary about where things are, the placement of things, the amount of things that you have around. You know, like you don't want your entire powder supply beside the candle factory. That would be dumb. But you get the idea. And I just kept going from there. I started, I did reenacting, but then I started doing it in professional life. That, hey, we need this to happen at this event. We need a black powder gun shootout. We need a special effect explosive. We need this, that, and the other. And so that's what I did. I just went from there and learned. And like I said, right out of high school, I was apprenticing under different pyrotechnicians and black powder guys and stuff like that to learn even more. So I just kept going. It was my area of interest and just kept with it.
And you said you've been licensed for 25 years, but this is
Something
definitely
like that.
your entire lifetime. I mean, from knowledge
Oh,
you
thank
from
you.
your father
He thinks I
to...
look 25. My son. Yeah, hey, son. He thinks I look 25. Isn't that great? Yeah, his prescription
You're
needs to be
doing
checked because
something
his
right.
glasses are gone. No, I'm 52. And but most of this has been a lifelong experience because my dad, he kind of performed a little bit, and I grew up around everything he did, and it was interesting. It was something funny about my childhood. Most of my dad's friends were Class 3 automatic weapons dealers and collectors, so they collected and shot machine guns. And when I was like 8 years old or whatever, I started firing machine guns, and I didn't know that was different. It was all I ever knew, so I thought everybody had machine guns. I thought on the 4th of July, you went over to a friend's house, ate barbecue, and shot machine guns because that's what you do. And then when I went to school and talked about it, when I was like kindergartner or whatever, talking about machine guns, they're like, they had and also my dad designed and built haunted houses, which I've done too. Our dark attractions is what they're called in the industry. I did that after my dad because I learned from it as well. Did that for a spell. And, that the principals or whoever talked to my parents were like, we think Alan is living in a fantasy world because he talks about machine guns and his dad making monsters. And then my parents had to sit on the other side of the desk going, no, it's all true. And I actually had to do that with my son. Because he was talking about all the things his dad did. It's like swinging swords at people and doing fireworks displays, things like that. And they were like, "We think Bryn lives in a fantasy world because they're like, no, it's all true and sort of a family tradition. Sorry, we're a little bit controversial, but." Speaking of that, you were talking about earlier what all I did at Sherwood. Besides all my other duties, I do 3 different shows. One is an adult content show that's violence and adult humor, 2 great tastes that taste great together, called Blunt Force Drama International Combat Tournament of Champions. And we do that one. It's just a really fun show. And then I do one that's suitable for adults and children, which I call my Adult School of Sword, which I actually show the actual techniques and stuff like that. The audience gets to choose which weapons we're going to talk about. And then I go into those, and then I get a volunteer from the audience. It's like if you were sitting in the audience and I didn't know you, I'd be like, sir, what is your name? And you would say, Floki. And I would say, I think of a volunteering, Floki, come. And bring them up there, and we take...
Choose your weapon. Oh.
Yeah, we take wooden weapons at that time, and I show the actual technique slowly and answer questions about it. But that one's suitable for adults and children. But then I do a children's school of sword that is specifically designed for children. so I get full circle. I don't like to leave one set of people out. I want to, I only do adult shows or I only do children's shows. I mean, I want to be a full spectrum and make sure everybody gets something out of what I do. And but all of it, even the fight show, the sword classes and things like that are all based off of original manuals, off of original moves. We study them. And also do 2 slots of private sword tutoring a day, where basically 1 to 3 adults, I only take adults on this because this is actual techniques on how to kill people, and I work with them on the weapon of their choice for 20 to 25 minutes, and at the end of which I tell them, pay me what you think it's worth. And sometimes I'll get 20 to 30 bucks a student or something like that, and that's nice. A couple of times it's been $50. And then twice in the many years I've done this, I've done Oscar for like 15 years. Oscar's my character out at the fair. He's a German master of defense that wrote the best-selling fight manual, grabbed them by the crotch and throw them out the window. Yeah, he's a fight master, a career tournament fighter is basically what he is. He's like a sports celebrity. He's like, Michael Jordan or Muhammad Ali or something like that. He's just the old grizzled fighter dude. But in the private sword tutoring, I'm actually, stepping people through. And the reason that they tip me as much as they do is because I was like, wow, why are they doing this? I understand that a professional instructor should be paid a certain rate, something like that. That's great. But I'm not doing it to, make lots of money. I'm doing it to impart knowledge about the Western martial arts. And then I realized after, somebody gave me $100 bill. I'm like, oh my gosh, I worked with you for 20 to 25 minutes. What's this? And then I realized if you, as an individual, had always thought cars were cool, but you never knew how to drive one, all the way into adulthood, you never knew how to drive one, but then someone took 20 minutes out of their life to show you how to drive a car, it would turn your world on its ear. You're like, oh my gosh. And then I understood it. Because if you go to a Renaissance fair, whether you're a sword person or not, you got to wonder, these things are heavy. I mean, how do they hold them? How do they stand when they hold them? How do they fight with these things? It seems impossible. And then you learn the technique, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's how it works. Yeah. They had an efficient system of doing things that worked, and it was trial and error, and it's just like history. History in general was people making mistakes. Oh wow, we made a mistake. That was bad. So when we read it in the future, we respect their lives and respect the suffrage that they had in whatever they did to go, oh wow, that was a mistake. Hey guys, stop. We're not doing this. See right here, it says this went bad. Yeah, don't invade Russia in the winter. It's bad. So, we learn from history. If you don't learn from history, if you don't read, then you totally disrespect, your ancestors' lives and what they went through, because they're like, oh my gosh, that was terrible. Let's tell everybody in the future, don't do this. And nobody reads it. Like, damn, we put effort into this. We tried to help you, but you didn't know. So we should respect history just at all levels, because it'll teach you a whole lot of stuff. But we write that into the shows to where our fight show, the fighting makes sense. You see it and you're like, oh wow, okay, that's why he did that move, to do this. And it's just an interesting experience, because sometimes you see theatrical sword fighting, you don't know what the hell's going on. And like I tell my sword students, there's only one move in any sword fight. One move. Wham, you kill the guy. And then you go get a beer. What makes a sword fight is when you go to kill the guy with the one move, because you only want to do one move. You don't want to fight. Oh my gosh, if you fight, you give the guy just as much time to kill you as you to kill him. So the idea is to kill him and get a beer, because that's what, we do. So
traditional sword fights are very quick. They don't.
Yeah. So if I swing my sword at somebody to do my one move, and they move and block it, that son of a bitch. Now I've got to do my move again and try and kill him again. But that's what makes a sword fight. And the traditional manuals, like you said, a sword fight, lasts seconds, if maybe 1 to 2 moves. And so what we do is, because they call plates, which showed a sequence of actions to get the kill or whatever. But we would replace the kill with an avoidance or a block or something like that, and then go on to another plate. that was kind of started off in the same thing, but it makes a very entertaining story that the audience can read. It looks logical of what they're doing. You can understand it. Excuse me. Breakfast was good.
Excellent. So I would like you to take me through what it's like being behind a pyrotechnic display as you're like setting off the different charges of the fireworks in the air.
Okay, start chain smoking and slugging coffee for about 2 months, and having severe anxiety. You know, and
Okay, and after
then
you
just hate yourself in everything you do.
all right, so after you got your mental prep done and your meditation out of the way, and your yoga,
Yeah.
what's it like having like I guess what does it look like to have these charges and have these artillery shells and these units like set up?
Well, most of the stuff is pre-made. In fact, there's an interesting problem going on in the pyrotechnic community right now due to the coronavirus.
Mhm.
Where are the fireworks made?
Oh, okay.
China.
So you
Where
have
are the
some
sick
import
people?
problems. Yeah.
They're being forced to work in factories. So, they and not so much forced. Some of them make so little money they have to go.
Mhm.
Being sick is not an option. We don't, we're not as pampered and privileged as, well, I just won't go into work today because I don't feel good. No, it's like you don't go into work today, your children starve, you starve, whatever you're living in is repossessed from you. So it's affecting the supply of pyrotechnics into the U.S. And so we're having trouble with actual supply from it. But most of the stuff is pre-made. But you still, like in some of the effects of mine, I will angle a cake, which is, pyrotechnic device, 45 degrees on each side and have one going up in the middle to make a fanned effect very big. And so you still got to have the rack. You got to have the however you're firing it. If you're firing it electrically, you got to have your electrical lines run. You got to make sure that when one thing fires, it doesn't jerk the wires out of another item.
So you mentioned this cake. Am I understand that this cake is the device that holds the charge and it always stays on the ground?
Basically, imagine a series of tubes, and it doesn't stay in the ground. It sets on its own.
Okay.
Sometimes I secure it by putting it in a wooden rack that I can actually angle the rack one way or the other to make it go in a certain place. Like if we have prevailing wind that's coming from one direction and I don't want it to increase my fallout area, I'll aim it backwards sort of into the wind where it will stay within my fallout zone. But picture a series of tubes all connected with one fuse.
How wide are these tubes?
They vary in size.
Okay.
They vary in size. They can be small. They can be a little bit larger. The class.
So like 2 inches, 4 inches around, even to like 6?
Mostly it would be under 2 inches.
Under 2
it's
inches?
Class C.
Class C, okay.
Class C is like 1.75.
1.75
So it's not,
what?
it's not 2 inches.
What defines Class C?
Class C is consumer grade. It's what's sold in the stands.
Okay.
It's stuff, generally. So it doesn't go up as much as professional grade. It doesn't go as many 100 feet up in the air as that does. Doesn't require such a large fallout area. Doesn't require, it's a lot cheaper to do. But a lot of people don't use it because it's very hard to sell. If you're some company or whatever, you want me to do a firework. And they're like, well, describe your fireworks to me. And it's like, how do I do that? Well, it goes up in the air and it blows up and it looks real pretty. Did that get it for you? You're like, no. It's something you really got to see. But when you tell them, and I'm a very honest person. I like to be upfront with my employers and stuff like that and tell them what's going on. So I tell them, yeah, I use Class B, consumer grade. Class C, consumer grade, because it's just as pretty. I said it's just smaller, and the only word they hear in the entire conversation is smaller, and they're like, "Oh gosh, this has got to be crap," And it's like, no, it's just as beautiful as that. But the only thing they can do is hear the word smaller, so they're like, "No, we don't want small stuff. We don't want small stuff." No, it's huge, it's beautiful, and if it's close to you, it's fantastic. So, but it's very hard to sell. So that's
When
why
you
a lot
say
of people
small,
don't
you're
use
saying like the area that the effect covers in the sky, which if you have a smaller view, no?
No,
Oh.
I'm talking about the height that goes up in the air.
Oh, okay, that's the smaller part.
Yeah,
is the
it's
height.
just
Okay.
closer, and being closer, it doesn't have to have, like Class B kind of starts out in the 3-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch area and keeps going up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've shot as many as 12-inch shells, which are about the size of a basketball.
Wow.
And but those go up real high to where they can burst real high, and they have to be really big for everybody to see them. But when they're close to the ground, to get that same effect, it doesn't have to be that big, because it's, you're seeing it about the size it would be up there. So it's still huge. It's still breathtaking, but they can't get over the word smaller. And I'm going to tell them, it's smaller. It doesn't go up as high. Maybe I should use a better word. I get a thesaurus or something to find
Yeah.
a word that means small, but you'd have to look it up to realize it.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's a lower range,
Ah, there we go. We're starting to spin it or wag the dog
Yeah.
or whatever.
Which, I mean, like with the viewer perspective, if you're, like I said, if your audience is a little closer, then the fireworks going to look just as big as though it was, twice the size, but twice as high in the air. It's gonna the perspective is going to be the
Like
same.
I said, I paint the sky with fire, and I fill the sky. I really fill it. I love filling the sky. Why? Because I'm probably still a small child inside anyway.
So back to this cake. This cake is a
cake.
large box that has a bunch of tubes in it.
And it's not too large. They're different sizes. The ones that I use mostly is like a 500 gram, and they're kind of biggish, but they have different tubes, sometimes of different sizes, to get different effects. They have different loads.
So you
in
can put
each
different
tube.
sizes of shells in each one of them?
No, they're already in there.
Oh, okay.
They're already in there.
Oh, so the cake comes with all the effects. I got
you light
now.
a fuse, and that fuse goes to each tube. And sometimes the tubes, there's a thing called a zipper cake, which it fires like brah, 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 brah. Some cakes go doo, 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 like that. Different rates, different types. Sometimes they're fanned, which means they go out to the side. Sometimes they just shoot straight up. Depends on what you need and what you're looking for. And but there's all different types. But the individual tubes in there, so there's all these tubes that kind of resemble candles, so they call them cakes. That's what they do. But yeah, I use a lot of cakes. But the thing is, it's how you present it, how you aim them, the different effects. One of my pyrotechnic buddies, guy by the name of Greg Schott, is known as Fly in the industry. He does a lot of band work. He tours with bands and does their pyrotechnics and stuff like that. And he's done Rammstein and Slipknot and stuff like that. And somebody called him, and that wasn't related to a tour he was on. He was on a tour with a German band, and he answered the phone in German. And the guy's like, "Whoa, Fly! Hey! I don't speak that language." But he said when everything's the same level and you fire a whole bunch of effects at the same time in the same area of the sky, it's like air puke. Because you can't tell what it is. It's just a whole bunch of crap in there, But I like to spread it out to where you can see the effects and see them at different levels and different angles and wider and just out there.
I've seen that
all
where there's
types of
there's
stuff.
so much smoke and clouds going off that you
Yeah,
can't even see the
tell what's
color of the
going
bursts
on.
that are happening.
That's what Fly would call air puke.
That is a great description of that. Now, you also told me that you have 3 separate licenses for everything you do.
I have. I hold a pyrotechnic operator's license, which allows you to do fireworks displays and stuff outdoors. I have a special effect pyrotechnic operator's license, which allows you to do proximate fireworks. Proximate means closer to the audience, like the stuff you see at a rock concert or a sporting event that goes up. That type of stuff. Also,
So it'd be like bush cannons or big flame jets and stuff.
Yeah, and also like for putting special effects like bullet hit squibs on people, for doing movies where a guy pulls out a gun and shoots another guy and you see the blood fly. I can do that. That's special effects. Also, if a car blows up or something like that, it's a special effect. Because
If you need the Michael Bay gasoline explosion.
People walk slowly in front of an explosion. No, I'm a pyrotechnician. I've never walked slowly in front of that. I've run. It's like the old saying: if you see the pyrotechnician running, try to keep up.
Well, I mean, you have all your hands and fingers. So, you must be doing pretty good.
I have all the original set. So it's just from not only professionalism, but an appertaining fear of being destroyed by what destroys things. It's called explosives. It's like you respect it and it doesn't bite you. Hopefully there's still 1,001 chance it could happen. But the other one is a flame effects license, which concerns anything flame, even a candle on stage. Like in the city of Houston, was the local license holder for the Blue Man Group that came in, and they do an effect, or part of their act is they bring an audience member up and they make a little place setting for them to eat, and they put a little single candle holder on there with a single candle, and one of the characters lights it with a Bic lighter, and the other one puts it out immediately with a tiny CO2 fire extinguisher. And then later in the show, the band plays Freebird, and the same character takes out his same lighter and lights it, and the other one beside it with a little CO2 puts it out again, and that's it. But I had to be there for that flame effect. I was required by Texas state law, Houston, their requirements is called the authority having jurisdiction, which means whoever has power there makes up the rules, and fire marshals enforce it, and pyrotechnicians, if they're good, become a liaison between the production and the fire marshal to work out any problems. You know, it's like, yes, we understand we can't do this, but if we move this here, put fire extinguishers here and do this, would that work? And they'll say, yeah, that sounds great. Only stupid pyrotechnicians argue with fire marshals. You know, if a fire marshal says you can't do that, and the pyrotechnician, well, that's stupid, I've never heard of that. You know, that's the wrong way to go about it. If the fire marshal tells you that you must strip butt naked and dance the buck and wing before you can do the show, you best start getting undressed and limbering up, because you're going to do it if you want your show to go on. So be a smart pyrotechnician and don't argue with the fire marshal.
And I mean, you know, sometimes that might seem like a lot of precaution for just a single candle on stage.
Yep.
But you had mentioned like we all don't want another incident like the Great White Concert to happen
Well,
again.
yeah, if you were running a city and you wanted to make sure that you didn't have a venue catch fire, or you didn't have somebody get maimed during performance or killed, you would take steps to ensure that the people that are amateurs at it, that don't have the budget like a corporate client would or something like that, that they're just weeded out and not able to do it. And it's running a city. I think that's an entirely smart thing to do, because you don't have accidents. You run a tight ship. A lot of people really hate it because it's expensive to do pyrotechnics in a city and stuff like that. And that's why they go and make their mistakes outside of a city limits. And they do make mistakes. But, you know, it's a smart way to go about it, and keeps everyone safer. It keeps everyone having a good experience instead of having a lifelong regret, having lost, you know, the epidermis on the outside of their body, or a limb, or their life, or something like that. And the Great White Concert, that was a horrible, horrible tragedy that had nothing to do with pyrotechnicians, because a pyrotechnician wasn't used. They set the insulation on fire in a wall, and it spread to the ceiling, and most of the exits were chained shut.
How did that happen for people who aren't informed about like the history of this concert? Like,
Well, basically, this is the story I've heard. There have been many stories, but this is the story I heard.
where did this take place at?
I can't remember the city, but
Okay.
it was the Great White Concert, and everybody talks about the great tragedy that happened. And if I sat down and thought about it for maybe an hour, I could come up with a city. But basically, a friend of the band's manager had some proximate pyrotechnic effects somehow, and either gave them or sold them to the band manager, and the band manager set them off, from what I understand. So it wasn't a professional pyrotechnician. When it happened, it set part of the back wall on fire, which went up into the ceiling. And because it was a pyrotechnic effect that shouldn't have been done where it was set. It was a little bit higher than it should have been, because they're actually printed on the outside how high they go and how long they last. But apparently he didn't read that, or didn't know how to read it, or whatever, but set it up and set the club on fire, and the club filled with smoke very quickly, so no one could see. Most of the exits that should have been to where you could get out were chained shut. So there was there was two exits, one that nobody knew about and one that everyone knew about, which was the front door. While many people died being trampled or by not being able to get out in smoke inhalation, people were wedged in the front entrance. There was a double doors, but they were wedged in it, several bodies high. They couldn't get them out, and the flame came up and ate them from their feet to their head. Over 100 people died in that fire in that club. And it was a horrible thing. And it made life a lot harder for actual pyrotechnicians and venues, but those steps were necessary in my mind because it made everything safer. Because this stuff, it's flame, it's explosives. It will eat you.
Mm-hmm.
And if it gets out of hand, and it can get out of hand easy and it can get out of hand quick, then you got more problems. You're going to have people die. You're going to have people, just horrible things happen. If your venue burns down, does it burn down anything next to you?
Mm-hmm.
The next venue, is that going to kill people? Just a good historical reference. The urban legend has it, a cow kicked over a lantern in Chicago and caused a great city fire. That was a cow and a lantern.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, you need a license to operate that cow and a lantern?
It's amazing.
Well, I guess we should have.
It's unreal how fast fire can spread that quickly.
Oh, yeah. And I that was the thing I talked to you about before this interview began, about fire performers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I adore their ideas sometimes, especially the ones that are hobbyists, not professionals.
Mm-hmm.
They think they know what they're doing, and sometimes, because I look at everything to anticipate accidents. Like, where's your fuel at? How much fuel do you have on the scene? The connections on the thing as you're spinning, have you checked them lately? Are they rusted? Are they about to break? Or are they in good shape?
Yeah, always check your tools.
Just a list of things that I go down, but I also look at what they're wearing. And I say, about your costume, and they stop me. So, it's okay, it's flameproof. It's like, no, sir, stop, back up. No, flameproof. Let's think about that for a minute. You see that mountain over there? You see that red shit coming out of the top of it? That's a rock that caught on fire and melted. There is no flameproof. There is only harder to light. That's it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah. Think about that when the next time you think that you're impervious to flame.
Mm-hmm.
Your hair's flammable, your skin's flammable, your costume, even though it's heat treated, given enough fire, that some bitch will catch on fire. So let's talk. And it kind of, turns the world on its ear for them, because they're like, they believe they're invincible. I can't be set on fire because I'm a fire performer. Didn't they see my card that I printed at Kinko's that says I'm a fire performer?
Yeah.
I had 12 hours of instruction on YouTube on how to do this. I'm an expert.
The card says so.
Yeah. I paid extra for that. It's in silver. See? It glints in the light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely overconfidence is probably the biggest threat to fire dancers, for sure.
Fire dancers, stuntmen, pyrotechnicians, standard consumers with standard consumer fireworks. Mm-hmm. It's not having respect for what you're dealing with, and not having the knowledge it takes to operate it or to anticipate accidents, because the accidents are what will kill you and people around you. So you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to your audience, and you owe it to your venue to do the research before you do the show. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of research, I just looked up. It's called the nightclub that caught fire with the Great White. It was called the Station Nightclub Fire. And it happened in February 20th, 2003, in West Warwick, Rhode Island. Killing 100 people.
Yeah, it was Rhode Island. Yeah.
Injuring 230 additional. So
what was the title of
people.
that again?
The Station Nightclub Fire.
No, there was one before that. You just saw like a general heading.
It happened in West Warwick, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
With the Great White guitarist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, the original thing you said, I think, is what you searched on. I guess it was the nightclub that caught fire, and it sounded like a Christmas special or something like that. Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph and the nightclub that caught fire.
The Fight Club, and the night the nightclub
the
burned
night
down.
that no one talks about. A Christmas special by Hallmark.
It burned for a week.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Then,
it's like the Irishman that passed away, and they tried to cremate him, but they couldn't get his body to stop burning for 2 weeks due to the alcohol content. We can't put him out.
Well,
yeah.
Well, Alan, this has been a pleasure talking to you about pyrotechnics and stuff.
No problem. I'm glad that somebody would let me drone on. I'm glad this happens because I can't afford real therapy. That's why I do fairs.
Well, it's great. I mean, what you do is amazing, and you definitely inspire a lot of people, and people love seeing from the cannons to the fireworks going off. So I think it's amazing what you do.
Well, thank you. One of my common jokes is when people are like, "Man, how'd you get into what you do? These explosives and weapons and stuff like that." It's like, well, my probation officer likes me to keep busy, and then I go about doing whatever I'm doing like I'm serious. They're like, "What?" What? I have fun with it. You got to have fun with it.
Exactly.
And I like making people laugh and, entertaining people, making them go wow, forgetting their, day-to-day life and just having a good time.
Yeah, you'd be blowing stuff up anyway, so better get paid doing it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And best thing
Well,
is
no,
having
I
people to do
wouldn't
it
be
for.
blowing up stuff anyways unless I was in the Army.
Oh.
Something like that. But, yeah. Well, other than consumer-grade fireworks, that's all the thing I'd be able to get in touch with. And I did do a lot of that as a kid. It's like, let's see what this would do. Oh, no. But, yeah, that's also how I learned a lot of respect by having my own accidents as a child. I still don't know why people do that. They let their kids, fire stuff like sparklers. It's sparklers. Hey, it's sparklers. Cool. Sparklers. Let's do sparklers. They're safe. No. They're a metal rod that gets as hot as a branding iron. And it puts sparks off that burns holes in clothing. So not only do people hand them to their small children to play with, but at weddings nowadays, they're very popular to have them. So you're in your most expensive clothes that are normally synthetic. Now, what happens for people who don't know, if you're wearing synthetic clothes and they catch on fire, they shrink wrap to your body and continue to burn. So, bad news. So you're in your most expensive clothes and you're holding something in your hand that can not only burn a hole in it by touching it, but also burn it by the sparks that shoot off of it. So you can set someone else on fire or yourself or cause damage to a venue by just having them. And people love to have them at their weddings. And I tell them, this is the worst idea ever. Please don't do this.
Yeah, and then they have the bride walk underneath a shower of them.
Yeah, and
As they're
she's
running out.
completely ensconced in flammable clothing that's synthetic. And she's got product in her hair, which is also super flammable. So, yeah, she's like a tiki torch waiting to go off, or a road flare. A very pretty road flare.
Well, that's advice from Alan, a professional pyrotechnician. Don't use sparklers at your wedding, people.
Yeah, scary, not good. Do anything else, please. Confetti, I don't know.
Or hire a pyrotechnician.
Yes, hire a pyrotechnician that would tell you it's a bad idea to do sparklers.
Do you have is your company available for gigs? And
Well, I'm not exactly a company. I'm an individual.
we mentioned earlier a company you work with.
Yeah, I've worked with several different companies over the years, including Pyro-technical,
Pyro-technical.
Pyro-spectaculars by Souza, just various different companies, LD Systems in Houston, just lots of people over the, because I got into this business, or in the entertainment business, right out of high school and just kept going. So I've made a lot of professional connections and stuff like that, talking to different experts about things, learning from people in the field with real-time problems instead of learning in a classroom with a book that may be outdated problems. So I see that kind of as an advantage. I worked a lot as an adolescent and a young adult for free, but the amount of knowledge that I got was well worth it. Well worth it. It made me a more well-rounded pyrotechnician, special effects guy, whatever.
Yeah, nothing you learn in life is ever really lost. It seems to always build.
Oh yeah. I after 2 marriages, I can say that. Yeah, most definitely.
Awesome. Well, I encourage our listeners to definitely go to the Texas Renaissance Festival or even Sherwood Forest Fair and check out Alan's classes or his fireworks display.
Yeah, we live to entertain. Texas Renaissance Festival has been going for, several years now, over 45 years. They're a huge show that if you go there when it opens and stay till it closes both days in a weekend, you will not be able to see or do everything that's there to be seen and done. Sherwood Forest Fair is a little bit smaller, but it's on its 11th year this year, and it's a wonderful weekend of lots of fun. And they have a patrons campground that continues to have parties after it's over. And so you can actually see shows and go to little like mini clubs that have dance floors and stuff like that in these camps, and the party just keeps going on. If you're into that, there's also quiet sections you can camp if you're not into that, but it allows you to stay the whole weekend and see the whole thing, and it's just lots of fun. Sherwood Forest Fair has a real interesting feeling to it. It's got a lot of soul. It's a sort of a hometownish fair, but it's gotten much better over the years and has become a little more professional and presents just a really neat look. And as opposed to like a Renaissance festival, a lot of people don't know this, but Renaissance is a time period and medieval is a time period. They're not interchangeable. That's like saying, let's have a Revolutionary War reenactment and have a 50s sock hop at the same time. It's like these two things don't go together, but a lot of people don't know that. This fair, Sherwood Forest Fair, is a medieval fair. And the cut of clothes is different. It's just a real interesting thing. It's built around the Robin Hood legend as well. So you'll see characters like Robin Hood, Richard the Lionheart, and things like that, Maid Marian, Little John, Friar Tuck, all the guys. And it's a fun thing to do. I like to be on the other end of it, actually presenting the story and making the story better and more entertaining. So I'm kind of a storyteller.
Awesome.
Besides being everyone's grandmother watching out for safety.
I think people are going to get an opportunity to come see you performing out there.
I hope so.
Well, Alan, thank you for being a guest on my podcast.
That's no problem, Floki. Thank you for having me, and like I said, letting me drone on.
Yeah. Thank you for blowing stuff up. Have a good day.
That's what I do.
Great.
Fired up. You got my attention. Is something burning?
If you want to support the All Things Fire podcast, head on over to patreon.com and search for Morgan Floki. Thank you for all your support, travelers. Have a great day.
Any vibrations, emotions, taps can be heard on the mic, so just try and keep those. But you should be able to hear my voice in your head and vice versa.
Does it pick up nervous erections?
It does not.
Oh, good.
No, it's audio only. It's audio only, unless.
What is that vibration? It sounds like an erection.
If your erection is vibrating at that sub frequency, we will pick that up.
Man, a glass just shattered. I think Alan has an erection.
All right.
Damn it, Alan. Stop it. Get the hose. The bucket. Yeah, the cold one.